You don't ever have to come here and fight in a general election where you have to attract independents and people of the other party to vote for you to get to 51%. So that's the last thing I have to tell you is I'm hoping that we'll all think about how we in California, now that we've got it right for ourselves, will help get it right for the rest of the country. Because, unfortunately for us, because we've got it right, it doesn't get us what we need. We don't have 218 members that give us a majority in the House. We don't have the ability to pass this in the Senate that are going to get us what we need. So there's a number of different ideas that I have now that I'm out of government, and I can talk about these things. But let me just say this. Here in the Bay Area, here in Contra Costa County, here in the East Bay, we still have the best leaders in the country and the state of California. We have hardworking people every day that are working to advance for themselves and the rest of the people in the state of California. We still have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do to continue to unite ourselves, both on education and science, to make sure that we are competitive, that we have the kind of jobs that are going to lead to a standard of living that raise people up. You know, John Kennedy said that he wanted to have the tide lift all boats, not just the odds. And that means that you have to have a community effort to do that, and everyone has to be represented. So David suggested that I might want to take some questions. I only answer easy questions. I'm happy to try to do that. I know people are going to be going off and doing many things, but if somebody had an easy question, I'm happy to do it. Yes, sir.
I guess easy is subjective. First of all, thank you very much. For joining us today, and I wish you continued health there and your daughter and family there. So the question I have is, with your great experience and knowledge of Russia, I'm just very curious what Russia thinks of America's political gridlock and polarization, shall we say?
I think that since they don't have a democracy, they're not really, they kind of look at what we have and say, that's a reason not to do what we do. But democracy really doesn't really work. You know, in many ways, the Russian and American relationship is indispensable. We are the primary drivers for everything nuclear. All of the opportunities to have non-proliferation, to work together, to take down weapons, to honor the non-proliferation treaty of which we are both depository states. So it's important that we work together. We work in the P5, which are the 5 permanent members of the UN, and whether it's on Syria, not so good. Iran, pretty good. We are in constant consultation. And it's a very mature and a very complicated relationship. I often describe it as one of those kind of skyscraper things where, you know, we're saying well on the first floor, we're talking nicely on the second floor, we're punching each other out on the third floor, we're yelling at each other on the fourth floor, we're making a deal on the fifth floor. So it's complicated, and there's many different places where we work together. Now that I'm out of government, no good deed goes unpunished. I'm now working with what's called Track 2. It's the non-government people working with their non-government people on things that the government people don't like to talk about. Kind of make it better for the government people to talk about things that they don't like to talk about. So I will be going there in March. But you know, it's a terrific experience to be able to represent the country out of the country. I do have to say that my very good friend, Secretary Clinton, did a heck of a job yesterday when she was before the 2 committees. Some people say give him hell, we say give him hell. She is indefatigable and just an amazing person, and I'm so glad that she's going to get a rest. Who knows what she'll do next year or in 14 or 16, but you know, she is in many ways one of a kind. I'm also enormously proud of my very good friend Dianne Feinstein, who introduced the assault weapons ban today. And Eric is the whip from the freshman class on the assault weapons ban. Clearly, as Dianne said this morning in the press conference, this is an element of a comprehensive solution. This is not about taking people's guns away. This is not about an assault on the Second Amendment. This is about taking weapons of war away from our families and our schools and our jobs, and making sure that these weapons of mass destruction are regulated in a way that people have a fighting chance. And so I think she's enormously brave to be introducing the bill. Doesn't make her popular in lots of places, and of course, her security is very important to all of us. But I think that there's just a lot about what's going on now that we all need to, I think, appreciate some of these people that are in public service, that are sacrificing their personal time and their lives, frankly, to do what's good for everybody. Thank you. Yes?
I think I have the microphone next. I'm behind you. You couldn't see me. And I'm Lisa Vorderbergen with the Contra Costa Times, and of course I'll have a very easy question for Ms. Tauscher. Speaking about Secretary Hillary Clinton, you have a very close relationship with her, worked with her. If she does run for president, what would be your assessment of her strengths and weaknesses as a as president if she were to win?
Well, I was for Hillary in 2007, and I think that she did run a campaign that was the kind of campaign that was absolutely competitive. I think that certainly President Obama ran an insurgency campaign, really did a terrific job, and the way they have come about this ability to slice the demographics like Carpaccio and to really talk to and energize people to go to the polls is a phenomenon. I think that Secretary Clinton, should she decide to run for president, will have legions of people with her. As I told her personally, she's now got poll ratings in the 60s. I think that isn't because she's any smarter than she always has been. She's very smart. It's not because she's working harder than she always has been. People know how hard she works. It's not because she's, anything other than not in politics. And I think that she has a premium now on her polling because she's not considered to be a political figure. People actually, we all have Republican friends that are more conservative and perhaps would never vote for a Democrat that willingly say, I would vote for her tomorrow. We'll see when she's actually on a ballot. You're volunteering right now. And the truth is that people look at politicians now and discount them and discount their motives and, consider them to be, less than just straightforward. And so I think that, in her 60s, in polling, as I've said to her, I said, you decide you're going to run, you're going to go 66, 46, 26. Because all of a sudden, she's going to be looked as a partisan politician. And that's unfortunate. You can't elect people that aren't partisan politicians. But I think that she will put together a campaign team that is second to none. Lesson learned in 2007. And I think that she will be ready and she'll be energized. She'll be healthy. And if she decides to do it, I'll be there. You had a question, Bob?
Yeah, thank you for sharing your cancer story and your fight. I wonder if you could speak to the advancements being made in cancer research and detection. I know it's something that's impacted my family with both my parents, and I know that it's been something more recently that they seem to be getting more targeted toward identifying it and treating it.
Right.
Can you speak to that?
Well, when I retired, I decided I would kind of take my life and separate it into the two baskets of expertise that I have. And one is the national security side, so I'm on the nuclear weapons board labs. I'm on the Scowcroft Center Vice Chair, and I do this track 2 talks with the Russians on missile defense and nuclear weapons. And then I do healthcare. So I'm on the board of 2 public companies, Indicare and eHealth. And then I'm also on the board of the National Comprehensive Cancer Network Foundation. I'll become the chair of it in March. And the foundation supports the National Comprehensive Cancer Network, which is the 21 large cancer centers of excellence in the country, the names you know, Dana-Farber, MD Anderson, UCSF, Duke, Sloan Kettering. It's the 21 big. They are ferociously competitive. except on one thing. They get together and donate hours. Last year, a little less than 4,000 doctors donated a little over 12,000 hours, producing what are called the guidelines. The guidelines are the state-of-the-art in treatment for the various cancers. And they publish these guidelines for diagnosticians, clinicians, and surgeons. And they also have a version for patients that we've started in the last year. I actually just funded the esophageal cancer one because when I had mine, I had my surgeon's guidelines, which were in surgeon talk. We now translate them into patient talk. So what will happen is your surgeon will have the guidelines, you'll have your version, which will tell you what to do. And it is by far, the guidelines are the imprimatur for not only the best outcomes for cancer and treatment and survivorship, but it's what the insurance companies believe are the best thing and the thing they pay for. And it includes, in some of these cancers, experimental treatments and other things. So it's very much state-of-the-art. And it's amazing to work with these people. They are, best in the world. Many of them go around the world teaching other countries and other practices, delivering the word of how to deal with cancer and to increase the ability for people not only to survive, but to have survivorship that approximates the quality of life they had before cancer, which is what I wanted and which I was happy to find out that I was going to get. So, I think, cancer is, everybody has cancer. I was shocked to find out. I learned two things when I was getting treated. What is the dirtiest thing in the hospital? A surgeon's tie. Wow. His necktie. My doctor told me, I was in this kind of area, he said, your surgery it's worse than a heart-lung transplant, so it's going to be like 3 weeks in the hospital, and it's going to be hard, and all this other stuff. And he said, but you're not going to see me. This was 5 o'clock in the morning of the surgery, he was in his clothes. He said, you're not going to see me in clothes anymore, because I only wear scrubs, and we have this elaborate cleaning thing that we do as we do our rounds. And so I was like, okay. And he said, it's the dirtiest thing in the hospital. I thought, the floor, I was like, no, a surgeon's necktie. That's why we don't let anybody wear clothes when they're near patients. But I thought, that's very cool. And so I was glad to see him in the scrubs all the time. But, these are really amazing people. And, he also told me, people have cancer all the time. It just it's what's cancer? It's a lot of things, but mostly it's cells gone wild. And sometimes, you have it and it goes. It fixes itself. It goes a little crazy. It's like a bad weekend. It goes a little crazy and then it fixes itself. And in my case, it didn't. And people that have other kinds of cancers, it's the same thing. And so there's enormous science going on. But it takes money and investment, and it takes patience and persistence. It takes dedication, and it takes a focus to make sure that, in my case, esophageal cancer is the largest, fastest rising cancer. Most primary care physicians don't believe that women can get it. And there are two kinds. One's called bad boy, and that's for smokers and drinkers, and the others are called living good, which is the one I had, which means probably didn't do anything wrong. But, there's a lot of misnomers out there. People hear cancer and they think immediately, well, I guess I better figure out where the plot is. And the truth is, most people are surviving cancer. So now we have a burden. What do you do? What do you do with children that have had chemo? What do you do? How do you preserve their ability to have children if they're going to have radiation? So there's this whole phenomenal thing out there, and I'm just very blessed that I get to, come into this world and kind of figure out how to help them and how to support them and raise money and make sure that we have these kinds of outcomes for everybody's family. And it shouldn't be about whether you have good insurance. And it shouldn't be about whether you have a good advocate. It should be about making sure that everybody gets access to this kind of quality of care and that the science keeps advancing till we figure out how to turn these cells off and have cancer be something that maybe is a chronic disease, as opposed to being something that's a death sentence for so many people. I think I can take one more question. Hi.
Hi, if I can make the last question. Given the problem that you identified with districting, is there anybody in Congress, whether it's Democrat or Republican, that could reach across the aisle and begin to make deals? And is there any hope for us?
Yes, there are many people, but what we have to do, everything is about political will. And to a certain extent, we have to make it safe for the Congress to deal with this kind of issue. In California, remember, we had a version of an open primary in 1998. Where did it go? I got 75% of the vote that day. I thought I'd won. I had to go to the general election. What happened to it? Well, you have to watch out for unholy alliances. When the far left and the far right agree on something, my answer is run! So what happened? We had in 1998, we had an open primary. You go to the primary and vote for anybody you want. The problem was, the compromise was, you still had to have a general election. So it was like kissing your sister. It was nice, but you didn't get anywhere. The problem was, what happened when that happened? Well, California Democratic Party and the California Republican Party sued, went to court, and won. And then we went back to the old primary system. It wasn't until 2010, when we passed Prop whatever it was, where we decided that we have this primary that we have, which is the state of the art in the country right now. No matter of party, the two top vote getters in the primary advance to the general. That's terrific. So we need to create political will. We don't need to have members of Congress worried about whether their state party is going to endorse them in their primary because they're for national redistricting. So what we have to do is have a citizens movement that makes it about what it's really about. We'd like to think in California, because we have it right, that we're safe and we're a little self-satisfied. Except that we can't get anything done in Washington because we've got it right. We don't control the majority of votes. So we now have to go get the rest of them to get it right. Because they will continue to have partisan redistricting, and they will continue to send people without a temperament for compromise, because they don't need to. All they have to do is win their primary. And in order to win your primary, where do you have to stay? Out here. And that doesn't work for us. So I think we need a citizen. I think, yes, there are members out there. I think we can resurrect John Tanner's bill. I was an original co-sponsor. But I think before we do that, I think we need to say why it's important to California that this happened, why it's important to citizens generally. People are shocked when I tell average people, smart people, you don't really have a choice who your member of Congress is. You have a choice of whether it's Bill or Sue or Harry, but you don't have a choice whether it's a Democrat or Republican, because your district was drawn as a majority Democrat or Republican seat. So the person's fundable, but you're only going to get a Democrat or a Republican. No, it's going to take an act of God, literally, for you to have something else happen. The numbers just aren't there. And when people find that out, they're not happy. They are not happy. And we can't be happy either, because that doesn't give us the people that will cooperate with us in Washington. So on that happy note, we need citizens to stand up. And people in California, we've done it before. How many times have we started things in the country, starts in California, moves across the country? And if we could do that, if we can do what we have with our primary, that would be great. But I think it's going to take a lot more effort, and for people to be annoyed that the choice has been taken out of their hands, and that they're not going to get somebody that's going to compromise necessarily, and that the decision's been made what party is going to run their district. And I think we have to, look, we're not attacking the political parties. That's not what it's about. This is about the fact that the evidence is in it. There are too many people in Washington, especially in the House, that do not have a temperament for compromise. There are many reasons for it. It's not just because of partisan redistricting. But one of the things that we can influence, because we have had success, is partisan redistricting and insisting that it gets changed so we have national redistricting, not on party lines, but people get to make choices. So have a terrific time. I know that this is a great conference. I hope to come back and see you all soon. Thanks again for being the greatest people in the country, and it's wonderful to be home.